it's important to put things in their proper context, because so many there's like people put things on a pedestal and people don't realize it. Like, so many teachers will put their teaching or their path or their lineage or their teacher or their thing on a pedestal, in the same way that someone may put the Bible on a pedestal or Jesus on a pedestal. And what happens is that we put non-duality on a pedestal, and we think that non-duality is like the be-all end-all teaching. There's nothing greater than that in the universe. It speaks about the highest truth, so nothing can compare. If you stumble across this teaching, you are blessed. It's just, and even though some of those things is kind of true, that attitude is not ideal. And the reason for that is because if we continue to have this kind of like non-duality, is this, put it this way, the more we put it on a pedestal, the more orthodox we are with non-duality. And we don't want to be orthodox with non-duality. We don't want to be a non-dual. We don't want to follow orthodox non-duality. And non-duality is it just means, it's simply a word that refers to the fact that there is one reality. It's just that. It's like a part of a story. It's the part of the story where we recognize there's one reality. It doesn't mean it's the final thing we do. It doesn't mean it's like the end thing. Like there are other things to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's an immature thing to think that we need to just be this absolute reality, uncompromising towards anybody else, any experience. Nothing's happening, no one there, nothing there to experience it, nothing there no one there to speak to. That there is no self, and this just this unfolding. It's a very nihilistic point of view, and we see it in teachers. There's still traces of a lack of empathy and a lack of compassion. It's the essence of that. The quote that we all know, maybe some of us don't, but says something along the lines of, have he knowledge but no love, he knows nothing. And something like that. And it rings absolutely true. This is what we find in the spiritual circles. Non-duality is super important, advaita, to recognize the nature of ourself. But there's a far greater journey that includes non-duality, but it's a far greater journey that, and non-duality is implicit in it, but it's more about to what extent do we live in the world in alignment with our highest love and understanding, but compromising with the fact that we are having a human experience. And a lot of non-dual teachers, they'll deny the human experience. They will just say it's just an appearance, and like nothing else, just an appearance. It's just an appearance like anything else. It gives people find that there's this quality of like meaningless, purposelessness, emptiness, and they fall. If this teaching, because I understand what people mean when you say emptiness, meaningless, purposelessness. On one level, there's no meaning, no purpose to anything, and it's all empty on one level. But that doesn't mean that those words are actually true, in the same way that describing me as this, this character, or describing my dad, saying that he's not a woman, describes anything about his character whatsoever. You see? If I describe this cactus as not a cat, that doesn't describe the plant. You see? It's a freaking cacti. It's not even close to a cat. But yes, it's very true. It's not a cat. But that does not tell us anything about what it is. So to say that there's no purpose and no meaning, yes, it's kind of true, but it's also not true. It's the source of purpose and meaning. Reality is the source of purpose and meaning. If you want to put it that way, it's the most meaningful, purposeful thing that could possibly be. There's nothing more meaningful than something that can actually create meaning. There's nothing more meaningful than that. How meaningful is it when your child draws you a picture, a beautiful picture, and you put it on the fridge? Do you put it on the fridge because it's not meaningful? Do you put it on the fridge because they just drew it and you don't want them to see you throwing it in the bin? Why wouldn't you want them to see you throwing it in the bin? Because it's meaningful for them. They've created that meaning. And if you're not an arsehole, you're going to put that on the fridge, or you're going to keep it. Because you've imbued your meaning to it. You've created meaning for it. You've seen the meaning. So in the same way, reality is like that times a billion. It's like infinite meaning. And to some extent it's empty, meaning it's not filled with any specific, it's not filled with matter. It's not filled with any substance, but it doesn't mean that it's actually empty. You know what I mean? Because when we say emptiness, we imply nothingness. Right? If you say the glass is empty, it means there's nothing in the glass. So when the separate self of the mind here is empty, it thinks, oh, it's empty. It's emptiness. It means there's nothing there. It's just a void. It's absolute nothing, non-existence. It couldn't be further from the truth. So what this can create is this non-dual nihilism, and it's created from people who are uncompromisingly attached to non-duality as the highest teaching. And we can't give any credit to any level of hierarchy to a teaching. And you'll probably find, and I bet some of you have probably found, that you've gone back to these. You probably had a stage of thinking, oh, this person wasn't that awake, this person wasn't that awake, or I feel like I'm higher than them, I have more spiritual understanding than them. They weren't as awake as I thought they were, and you start judging how awake they are. You start trying to qualify them, qualify teachers, and you might come back to a stage where you actually realize that there's no hierarchy between who's more awakened and who's not. If you're at that stage right now, where you're judging me, how awake I am, how awake the teacher is, how awake somebody else is, let me just give you a loving wake-up call. There is no hierarchy. So when we see these non-dual teachings and we put them on a pedestal and think they are the be-all end-all, they're a beautiful stage in the process, right before we start to learn how to really love reality, how to really imbue this understanding into the world. And there we find the path of love, forgiveness, devotion, and just learning with life, learning to integrate. You think about it, most people have a non-dual perspective, and they claim that there's no one there, or that there's only one being, therefore, but they still interact with the world. You see, it's like the reason we still interact with the world is because there's a level of duality. It's just that duality isn't real. You see? It's like not ultimately real. But it doesn't mean that we can't give it reality. So like, the beauty of life is that it's both. I'm intimately one with my girlfriend. We share the same consciousness. but I respect her as an individual, because in one reality, on one level, she is an individual. There would be no enjoyment in only perceiving people as consciousness. It would be almost nihilistic. It would almost be blasphemous. It would almost be like a disrespect. And I don't mean not to treat people like consciousness. They're made of consciousness, but there's no people made of consciousness. But on one level there is, right? I'm talking to you right now, listening. You're listening. And there's a level where there's a communication. Communication, it only happens between two separate things. You don't communicate. The sun doesn't communicate with itself. It just shines. It doesn't need to communicate. So there's a level of existence, a level of experience where we do have this experience of duality, and that should be equally respected, just not suffered. Right? The problem is when we suffer duality, when we suffer the mind, when we suffer this experience, because we think it's real. But if it was really true that we shouldn't enjoy duality, none of the teachers that you have ever spoken to, whether that's the Buddha, Christ, Father frickin' Christmas, they wouldn't speak to you. There would be no point. You see, there would be no reason for it. And people could argue, well, no, it's just an unfolding. They didn't do it out of choice. It was just natural. And tell me, if really there's no choice, then why do you have the experience of having freedom? You have the freedom to lift your arm up, and I know you could argue, well, no, I didn't choose to lift my arm up in that way, and I used to get lost in this all the time. I just have no choice. It's not my choice whether I move it up or down. I didn't choose it. I didn't choose it, of course. It was just pure, absolute creativity. There's no choice in creativity. That's creation. It's even better than free will. So just bear this in mind. Don't fall into this non-dual nihilism, this non-dual cynicism. It's so much more beautiful than you can imagine, and it's been very much misinterpreted by many people on YouTube, nonetheless. Just remember, anyone can create a YouTube channel. So just be very vigorous in who you listen to and to what rings true for you. Usually, if it doesn't ring true, you've probably misunderstood something. The only other option could be that someone who's sharing is not really sharing from the most loving understanding, and that's fine. There'll be people who will benefit from it regardless, but we still need to see that. So anyway, if you enjoy what I'm sharing, you resonate with it, I have a free community. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Anyway, take care, guys. Have a beautiful day.